Oil painting has been around for centuries, with the earliest pieces found from 7th century Afghanistan. But the medium is more commonly linked to the works of the old masters who dedicated their whole lives to making works of art. But how long does it really take to learn how to oil paint? Well, that's what you're gonna find out in this video because I set myself a challenge. I have never painted with oils before, but I wanted to see how much I could achieve in just 30 days of learning. So after hours of research, I formulated a plan. All the steps I need to master the medium. So after 30 days and hundreds of hours of filming, here's what I came up with. Okay, just to start with, I may be new to oils, but I'm not a beginner artist. So I think along the way when I was posting updates on this challenge, some people were getting disheartened because they thought that I was going from beginner and learning how to oil paint. No, I have been acrylic painting for years now, and it's a lot easier to sidestep from one medium to another instead of trying to learn it all as a beginner. I already have some knowledge of the fundamentals, so this is just me figuring out how to use the medium. But anyway, on to day one. I'm starting off by following a simple tutorial by Paint Coach, where I'm just painting a still life scene. For the first few days I planned to learn the basics, follow tutorials, and just basically mess around with the medium. The simple shapes provided an easy way to practice, and it was a great introduction, and I don't usually paint still life, so it was really cute. It felt like I was in primary school again. But the nostalgia was short-lived, because by day 2 I was already sick of doing still life, so I moved on to portraiture. I had picked up this book a week before when I was buying paper for this challenge, and it actually had some really useful stuff in it. I started with an underpainting to lay out my lights and shadows before starting to paint the skin. At first I was thinking, oh hey, this doesn't look so bad. But then I realised it looks just like an acrylic painting, which is definitely not what I'm going for. I want those buttery, smooth brushstrokes that are characteristic of oil paint. I think the problem was I was being a bit too tentative with my paint, and my paint was too thin. A lot of the paintings that I do in the first few days are all alla prima because I was basically doing a painting a day. And if you look at alla prima paintings, they just look so juicy and full of finesse, not at all like mine. But it's only day 2, so I just let go of this portrait and moved on. For day 3, I was not about to waste a single drop of paint because, oh my gosh, oils are pricey. I did a bit of a different approach today. Instead of doing an underpainting, I sketched out the shapes of the face with pencil and then started filling in the darkest areas. I knew my hair the day before was lacking, so I chose a reference with a dude that is like 70% hair, so I can't run from my responsibilities. I was working on adding more paint to my brush, and I think this is definitely an improvement on day 2. For day 4, I worked on, you guessed it, more portraits. I called on my boyfriend to sit and do nothing for 3 hours while I painted him, which he was so thrilled about. There's something in particular that I'm just not liking about these portraits, and it's like I said before, they look way too much like acrylic. But at this point, I still could not put my finger on what I was doing wrong that was making them look like that. But anyway, Jack liked the painting, which is cool. And then we have day 5. I tried to do a Sargent study, but it was way too small and just a struggle. I hate it. You see, when I started this challenge, I was still at university and I had loads of assignments due, and to be honest, I was just getting a bit burnt out. So I was really worried that I was not going to be able to finish this series, but we kept cracking away and I did manage to get there. I had such a lovely response from everyone when I posted the day 6 and 7 painting that it really gave me the energy just to keep going, and with a new lease of life, I started day 8, which was painting fur. I actually found this trickier than the portraits because the way that I do fur with acrylics is very much based on layering. But with this, I was only painting in one layer, and I was really just looking at large clumps of fur. Here I selected a section of fur from a tiger to paint. This was so that I don't focus too much on the form of the tiger, I just wanted to practice fur. Day 10 was when I produced probably my favourite painting from the whole series, which is this horse. I always forget how fun it is to sketch with paint. I mean, my proportions are a little bit off, but you can still tell it's a horse, so I will take that. The shine on the fur is exactly what I wanted it to be, but you can still see the brushstrokes of the paint. I think this was the moment that I really started falling in love with oils. Day 11 and 12, I did this ugly ass portrait, which I'm not even gonna include that much footage of, it's just bad. there is no excuse, that's not the oils, that is just me. But no more studies now, I decided to just get on with the final piece. I wanted to do a big painting for the last 15 days to try and use everything that I've learned in those little studies. I needed something challenging, and in the end I came up with this, and though the drawing is quite simple, there's some cool elements that I think will push me, like the lighting and the full suit of armour. It's completely different material to anything I've painted so far. But first things first, I needed to tone the canvas because it's tinted blue from a previous painting that I did. But I used this crappy old brush which would not stop shedding. So after spending like 20 minutes trying to wipe off all those little brush hairs, I was finally able to do the underpainting. And the first thing I noticed was how much smoother that oil paint was going on because I was on canvas and not paper. I don't like painting on paper anyway because it's kind of rough and I just don't like it. I just don't think things blend very well. But unfortunately, I didn't want to have to ruin a load of canvases for this project, but it was nice to finally have upgraded. Now at this point, she was looking like a bit of an alien, but it's nothing that a pair of eyebrows cannot fix. I used a dry brush to create the eyebrow hairs so I didn't have to draw them in individually. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the next footage is covered by my head. Sorry about that. Next, moving on to the main attraction, which is this huge shoulder plate. It's basically the main thing you see when you look at this painting. So I really wanted to make my own sigil, so I came up with this double-winged eagle looking thing. I don't really know, but something that I was really loving is how well oil paint holds its texture. Oh my gosh. With acrylics, I find it tough to retain texture once it's dried, so this was really fun to work with. I wanted this metal to look pretty used, pretty worn, so I wasn't bothered about super smooth blending. I was messing around with texturing the paint to try and show dents and inconsistencies in the metal, and I love how it turned out. In some areas, I also used a palette knife to almost make scratches in the metal. This had me cracking up when I was editing. I had already done a few knife strokes before this one and they had gone great, but of course, as soon as I switch on the camera, that happens. Anyway, this is how it's meant to look. It was also feeling a bit empty, so I decided to add a cape, because who doesn't love a cape?
No capes!
I also kept on leaning my hand in the paint because in my mind I'm still using acrylics and it's already dried, but it actually hasn't. After initially painting the hilt of the sword gold, I really wasn't feeling it and I felt that the colour of the armour and the sword clashed. So I decided to scrub it out and start again. Now I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing here. I have never corrected a mistake in oils. It did make the area a bit messy, but you know what, this is a practice and this is the time to make mistakes. This is my 30 days where I'm learning. So after spending day 29 cleaning up the painting, it was finally complete. So may I present to you the reveal. I just find it crazy to think that this was day one, and now here we are. So, did I master oil paints in 30 days? No. And there's no surprise there, it's going to take years. But question is, what do I think about oil paints? Well, coming from someone who used to use acrylics, it feels like a betrayal to say, but I prefer oils. I still have a lot to learn with them, but so far I absolutely love the way they feel when I paint, and I just love the finish at the end. Thank you so much to everyone who's watched this far. I'd love to know about your own painting journey. Are you an oil painter? Do you want to get into oil painting? Like, where are you at? I just want to know.